All right, folks, thank you for joining me. This is AirJobBoss TV. I am the AirJobBoss, and today we're going over another question and answer from our interview question and answer series. And today's question is, tell me about a time you failed at good CRM. Oh my God, they're gonna cause me to admit that I failed at something. I hate it when they do this, and I know these are really difficult situations, but of course, AirJobBoss has the perfect answer that will not only allow you to pass your interview, but pass your interview well. And doing well is much, much more important than simply passing. For many reasons, I'm going to make a video on why you want to do well on the interview and not just pass it. Okay? Because at this point, this is December 2022, a lot of people are passing their interviews. A lot of people are passing their interviews, but this will not be the case always in the future, and you will have to reach high levels of proficiency in interviewing in order to get the job eventually. Okay, today is, tell me about your time you failed to use good CRM. Now, here is when you failed to use good CRM. 1, in the simulator, because this is allowed, yeah? Things are very hectic. They literally push your task loading to task saturation to make sure CRM breaks down so that you can understand the mechanics of how it breaks down, why it breaks down, and how to repair it once it does break down. So in the simulator, CRM is supposed to break down if simulator training is correct. Now, you might be incredibly proficient at the sim like me and never do anything wrong in the sim, but let's make up a story anyway, okay? Before we do, the other circumstances as to when you can use inappropriate or poor CRM is when you are new at the airline business, when you're a first officer at a regional airline. It is expected that you make errors in the airplane. That's why there's 2 people and a captain who is experienced, so he can correct you when you use poor CRM. Not as a captain, you're the one that's supposed to know pretty much, be pretty high level proficiency at a CRM, and then instruct the first officer. So you're going to go through this, hopefully you're going to go through this story about CRM breaking down the sim, and the follow-up question might be, well, anytime in the airplane? Because they want to press you to admit something you did wrong in the actual airplane. Then you're going to tell them about a story. Yeah, when I was a first officer. When I was a first officer new to the airline, I did this. Okay, so in the simulator, oftentimes here is one of the key things that always breaks down in a simulator on CRM, and that is the arrival or departure briefing. Before every approach or every departure, the pilots are required to brief on what is going to happen. Well, during a simulator, when you're taking off, landing, fires, smoke, medical emergencies, rapid depressurization, so you get all mixed up, and you're gonna skip some items in a briefing, an approach briefing, which is going to cause a slight misunderstanding of exactly what's been going on this particular approach or departure, and a small mistake is going to be made, meaning the gear up call wasn't made during our go round, or the 1,000-foot call was not made during our approach, or the taxi exit was not briefed. There'll be something. So find out what had happened and examine this on your next sim ride, and then you'll have a story to tell what exactly happened. But it's common that people don't brief the approaches thoroughly enough and something is overlooked. And that is exactly what they're trying to teach you. Do not skip a thorough briefing of the necessary items so that you don't make a mistake, okay? Now, you can always do the other things of CRM, for example, the intent or the communication during certain operations, non-normal checklists, how you got a little off and somebody didn't follow, I grabbed the wrong button, or I pushed a button without them confirming it, blah, blah, blah. That also can be one of those items during a sim. But the first example should be that you failed CRM in a sim. That's a place to do it, okay? Secondly, as a first, like I explained, as a first officer new to an airline, especially a regional airline. It's normal that you're going to make failures. Now, here's a couple of failures that I found that even major airline pilot first officers make. One is when they're circumnavigating thunderstorms. I acted as the captain, the first officer's leg. I am allowing them to use heading mode, and I'm talking to ATC, and they are circumnavigating thunderstorms, telling me what side of track they want to deviate, what heading, how far. And their communication, because they're so thoughtful and intent on the process of navigating and trying to be very careful, they don't often talk to me about, hey, here's my plan. I'm going to continue this heading for 20 miles, and I plan to take the right turn where this cell breaks. If that doesn't work, plan B is to turn left and come all the way 40 miles around it if that hole closes up. And they're not really explaining it. So you could actually tell a story where you were the FO and you were circumnavigating, and you really felt after you had done it all, you really weren't explaining it all because you were reviewing the communication the captain was doing to ATC, and you realized that you weren't really keeping him informed enough to really use CRM with ATC and help us circumnavigate it. And he looked a little nervous. And so after I got done and I was back and my periphery was wide open and we were clear of all the thunderstorms, I kind of realized I really didn't talk enough about it as I was doing it, because in my mind, things were changing very rapidly. And I didn't feel at the time I wanted to bother him with thoughts that may not be true as far as my intention, and I wanted to keep it open, and I want to change my mind a lot, and I didn't want him to look as if I didn't know what I was doing. But the reality is we all are continuously evaluating our decisions and changing our course of action should it be not as safe as we could and to safer routes. But that's what I learned about that as an FO. Other things about an FO that I've noticed is I'm the captain. I'm allowing the first officer to land, and the first officer touches down and then stomps on the brakes to exit a taxiway very near to our touchdown point. And I was startled at the reasons why are we decelerating the aircraft at such a rapid speed and exiting so quickly and not using nice, easy deceleration and down. And the FO was like, well, the reason why is I wanted to make sure we could turn here because our taxiway, we could get straight across the runway rather than doing the whole loop around, and it would save a lot of time. Well, the FO never explained this to me in the flight, in the briefing to the approach, so I was relatively startled with the amount of deceleration that was happening. And so I was like, okay, I'm going with this, it's not ideal in my opinion, but had I heard his reasoning, it would have been ideal. So you could tell a story about like that when I was at FO and I touched down and I got on the brakes really hard to exit so that we could get a direct taxiway rather than a long taxiway. And the captain was like, what, looked very startled when I applied brakes in the manner in which I did. And he was asking me why did I do that. And I later explained why, and he agreed that was relatively good. He just asked if I would advise him during the briefing about such a dramatic deceleration process. So I learned that as an FO. Okay, that gives you some ideas of the subject matter and so forth. If you need additional help, I provide one-on-one counseling prior and preparation to your interview at AirJobBoss.com below. If you have any questions about my service, you can certainly email me at info@AirJobBoss.com, and I'd be happy to go over my process, the costs associated with that, scheduling, and so forth. But also subscribe to this channel because in mid-January, I'll be going over the 2022 U.S. major airline hiring year in review and also a forecast of the hiring in 2024, and you do not want to miss that very important video. Thank you so much. I am the Air Job Boss. This is Air Job Boss TV, and we'll see you on the next video.